Now we will continue to check the remaining connections on your floor plan elevation 112.0. The previous video we did most of the other connections, so now let's finish up here in the middle of the screen here on just to the west of grid line B, where we have the C8 by 11.5 channels. As you can see on your drawings, again, it shows a little L shape for a clip angle. And as I zoom in here on my screen here, for this particular connection here, you can see I've got my model shown in solids and transparent main, so I can see my clip angles. And I have a clip angle here on the far side and here on the near side. On your drawings on S2, it is shown that we only want this clip angle here on the near side, and we are going to make that a welded connection. So first thing we'll do is we'll double click on our beam, our channel, and we're going to take it off auto standard. We're going to change it to a clip angle, and let's do both ends at the same time. Then we can scroll down to our connection specifications and attachment. We're going to do welded on both right end and left end. The next box is side. Right now it says both, so it's going to put a clip angle on both sides of the web. We want it to be on the near side, so we'll change that to near, and scroll down, and the load right now is at 11.5 on auto. Let's leave it as is and see if we can get the connection to work. So hit OK, process and create solids. And the connection came in. Clip angle here only on the near side. It's welded to the supported member, and it's bolted to the supporting member. Check the other end. We have a connection there. So now let's do the same thing here. This channel, change it from auto to clip. Scroll down to your connection specifications. This time we want it on the far side. Hit OK. Process. And you can see the connection came in and the clipping was on the far side. Both ends. And the last two here, we'll change these. Again, clip angle. This one here, connections on the far side. And this one here, it previously failed, and I know it's going to fail again, so let's change this one here to, it's a short little channel. Again, with the half the uniform load, it's way over designed as far as the loads that it's going to actually handle. So let's change that to, let's go to 12 and 12. Hit OK. And process. And the clip angle came in, and it's on the far side as your drawings show. Change the last one. So go to clip, clip. Near side on this one. Change your load back to 12. Hit OK and process. And the connection came in. So we did these one by one, and every one we processed. You don't have to do that way. You can change them all at once and then process everything at once. just for the demonstration we did them one by one. So that takes care of that area. Now we come up here, and this beam here's got a scroll or zoom in there. We've got a shear tab here, and it's on the near side. On the other end, shear tab, far side, just as your drawings show. Our bracing here, we have a connection here, and connection here, so that all looks good. Up here at our column, we've got our connection there, but this one here, we want this to be a shear bar connection. Actually, what we're going to do here is, let's look at your sheet number S3, and that's an elevation view at your grid line 1. And as you look at sheet S3, this beam here is actually supposed to cantilever over the top of this column. And that right now you can see the computer doesn't know that because we did not tell it that. And it's connecting this beam here into the column, and this beam here would actually connect to the column, but the connections failed. But in our case, we want this beam to frame over the top of the column and run out to about here, which then will create this beam here to frame into this one. So to show you how to do this, let's actually open up your elevation view 1, grid line 1. So let's go open 1. Let's zoom in here a little bit. And if you again look at your S3 sheet, you can see on the sheet it actually shows this beam here that I have highlighted running over the top of this column here. So when we put the beams in, we picked this beam here, we put it in plan view, but we picked from the intersection here at this column to the intersection here. In order to get that beam, the SDS to recognize that we want this beam to frame over the top of this column, we need to change our work point from our work point of our beam from this point here to out 4 inches. If you look at your sheet S3, grid line 1, it actually shows a dimension of 4 inches on grid line C. So to move this beam here, if I go in and highlight the beam here, left click, then right click, and do move stretch, and now it's asking me for a reference point. If I pick that point there, and then my second point, if I do dx/dy, highlight that, and then left click to locate, now it's going to ask me my dx/dy. My x direction is 4 inches, my y is 0, and my z in and out of the screen is 0. Now I'm going to hit OK here to show you what it's going to do, but this here, all this is going to do is move the whole beam. It's going to move the right end of the beam and the left end of the beam. So if I hit OK here and say yes here, now you can see when I highlight this beam, see my end here, it's moved over here about 4 inches, and my end over here, you can't really see it. If I zoom way in there, you can see the end of the beam is about 4 inches over here. So all that did is move the entire beam. So now I'm going to go highlight that beam again and move. Actually, let's just leave it there. I'll show you how to actually move the end of the beam. So to just move the end of the beam, now in this beam here, since we moved the entire beam 4 inches, this end of the beam is in the right spot now. It's 4 inches past C, but this end of the beam is in the wrong spot. So to move just this end, the left end, if you put above your beam here, take your left button, hit select, and drag across, you can see that I found two boxes here. Them are actually the boxes to select the end of the beam, only that end of the beam. Or in this case here, it selected this one too, which is that end of that brace. So if I want to, and as I go near that point, it's about a foot beyond the end of the left end of the beam here. So as I get close to that, you can see it highlights. So if I just put a box, and it's got to be a solid box, it can't be going this way, the directional box, so that picks anything it crosses, so it selected that brace too. So we do a solid box, and then now right click menu. Okay, do that again, escape over here. Solid box, menu, move stretch. Now it's asking for a reference point. You can pick any point. We'll hit locate there. Then our DXDY is on, so we'll hit left button locate. In this case, we want to move this end -4. We'll hit OK. Confirm move, yes. Now let's go in and process. Click anywhere on the screen and hit change all transparent main. Now you can see as I highlight this beam here, my work point is exactly at grid line B. And if I go over here, my end of my beam is about 4 inches past the C line. It shortened up the column. Now it knows the column frames, that beam runs over the top of the column, so it frames over like that. The brace connection works. And now if we go back to our open our view 112 and zoom in up here, now you can see this beam here frames into this one, and it's got that shear tab. So that connection there is correct now. Okay, over here, same type of deal. If we go back to, I'm going to turn everything to stick, so I'm going to do AS for all stick. And as I zoom in here, I'm going to go up here and turn off my erection views, just so you can see the two beams. The two beams come right to a point. If you have two beams coming to a point, SDS2 doesn't know which beam you want to frame into which beam. So if I want this beam here going horizontal on my screen to frame into this one going vertically, the vertical one has to go beyond. So again, if we look at your sheet S3 and look at elevation at grid line 2, this beam here is on grid line 2, you'll see that this beam here also should extend past 4 inches. So let's do the same thing here. Let's select with your left button and put a box, and again it's about a foot down. Yeah, zoom out here a little bit. There's that box. So now I put a solid box, not a crossing one, and right click for menu, move stretch. I can pick any point on my screen because it's just asking for a reference point. Then my DXDY is highlighted, so I'll left button locate. This case here, we want to go X, we want to go 0. Y, we want to go up on the screen, so a +4, and Z in and out of the screen 0. Confirm move, yes. Now you can see that end of the beam moved up 4 inches, and the other end of the beam is still at the center of the column. So now let's go and process. and then turn everything back to solid and zoom in there, and now the beam is extended past, and this beam here frames into this one with a shear tab. So that takes care of the connections on 112 elevation. So now let's go out to open up the roof 124. Take a quick peek at them, and we'll start here, grid line A and 1. You can see this joist coming in here. Here's your 2 bolt holes. That joist is sitting on top of this cap plate. Again, this plate here that I've highlighted, it's a dummy material. It's just there to get the SDS2 to bolt it to this column. This beam here, we'll come back to this one, and that when we get to the bracing, that beam there has failed. If I scroll across here, this bar joist here, if you look on your plans, it shows that it's bolted down. If I zoom in here, you can see it bolted it down. There's 2 bolt holes. If I go to the other end, zoom in, you can see 2 bolt holes. So that connection is working. Check the other joist over here. Got 2 bolt holes. And again, 2 bolt holes. So let's turn the rest of this. I'm going to do SA for solid all to get everything back to solid. And I'm going to actually turn it back to transparent main so we can see the connections. So now we're on grid line 3. I'm going to turn my grids back on, my primary and secondary grids. So we're at grid line 3 and B. There's that shear tab. It's on the far side, so that's correct. Here, your drawing showing clip angle, and on this beam clip angle, and on this beam clip angle. So them connections there are correct. This one here it's showing clip angle, and this one clip angle. Again, we'll come back to this beam here when we get to the bracing. So let's look at these last beams up here. These here are showing the shear bar, near side. And far side. I'm going to pan on the screen, holding down my middle button. Shear bar. Shear bar. There's that one and that one. So them connections there are in there correct. So now let's look at your elevation views. So let's flip to your sheet S3 and we'll open up grid line 1.